Hey, everybody, welcome to What the Flick. People versus O.J. Simpson, the Dream Team, and we have one of our own. Jayar, Brett, Sam are all here this week.
Yay!
So, you know, there's something about the danger of this kind of period piece is the modern viewpoint of, aha, we know better now. You know, that Billy Zane, Picasso will never amount to anything joke from Titanic. They do that a little much more than I'd like here.
What are we like specifically referring to that Kardashian line?
For starters, yes.
About we're the Kardashians, we care more about family than.
Well, when he tells his kids fame with nothing to back it up is meaningless. It's like, aha, get it, irony.
Yeah.
You know.
I like it. I like those moments though. And yeah.
But also Marcia Clark saying, oh, we're gonna have to answer to the media for everything. It's like, okay, I grant that she was probably prescient enough to see that coming, but there's a way to do that stuff dramatically where it doesn't just sound like 2015 screenwriter enjoying his hindsight.
But then it would be like a real drama film. And I like that this is a TV movie, and I like that it has like a little bit of that Lifetime FX cheese. So I love those moments.
Yeah.
When I hear those moments, I'm like, yes, I love it.
It is Ryan Murphy, you're right.
I have to admit, I watched the first episode not knowing that's what they were going for, but just watching like the cinematography of specifically the opening shot when they're established, and it's just like really crappy, like saying out loud, like, this is bad. And now taking a step back and watching it. That said, like, all the is Marcia Clark prescient, or was she blindsided by this going into it? Like, if you look at the chronology of like media super trial, yes, OJ was the biggest, but before, like the year before that was Dahmer, or the Menendez brothers.
Oh,
like,
true,
One-Two Punch. But you had Ted Bundy was the first big one in '79.
Right.
Like, the media, having to answer to the media, yes, this did change things, but I don't know.
It didn't come out of nowhere.
They would have had to be so blind.
L.A. already had Thomas Noguchi, you know, in the 70s, be the coroner who was blabbing about everything. So
I think a lot of the things that are happening, you know, you guys talked about the Kardashian part, how they're speaking to the audience about, you know, this happened and you know what came out of it. I feel like the subtitle of this entire series is, and this is where the Kardashians.
Kardashian origins.
Right, so I feel like they're speaking to us. I love that they're speaking to us. They're telling us, oh, look at these kids and look at their wholesome father trying to keep them from the dark side. He died. Look what happened. and here comes their mom, who, you know, it's what we all see them as now, or many of us see them as now. And then so it's almost, I'm trying not to get distracted with the messages that are coming from the creators of this series to tell me what they want me to get from it. I'm trying to get what I'm trying to get from it, but I still enjoy that.
Yeah, because you have to look at it that we're seeing a lot of the Kardashians, but they were heavily involved too. And of course, we're watching like this with trials, and a trial like this trial, it became very soap opera, real American crime drama. So people were tuned in and they were loving every moment of it, and everybody involved became famous. Right. I mean, we saw a little part with Kato Kaelin.
Right.
So and with Robert Kardashian, when he finally, on this past episode where he couldn't get a table and then they recognized it was him, and then him and the family got ushered in. But I think it's sensationalized, so I love the fact that we are seeing the Kardashians because A, they were involved, but B, we're all in on the joke in a way, if that makes sense.
The main thrust for this episode for me seemed to be the notion of OJ's defense team trying desperately to make this trial about anything but the actual murder. And on the one hand, there's an enormous amount of cynicism involved. But on the other hand, it's like, that's what all criminal lawyers do, right? I mean, I'm being naive to think otherwise, correct?
Yeah, well, you try to do anything you can to discredit any of the evidence in any way possible, either by saying that it's not true or that it was gathered incorrectly.
Sure.
It shouldn't, you try to get everything struck down before you even start trial.
Right.
Yeah, there was a lot. You saw them strategizing on how they're going to present doubt in the minds of the jury and how they're going to build this defense case, and then capitalizing on the very volatile race relations that existed at that time. Yeah,
this room full of white guys making this decision to a client who doesn't even want to go that way, you know, who doesn't feel that that's a thing. But
and then being strategic with Johnny Cochran, and it was fascinating to me.
Yeah, trying to compare this to like what I remember of the time. You know, like
you grew up in LA.
I grew up in LA. I was in 6th grade when this happened. Sorry, but yeah, believe me, there's people who are like, "Who's O.J. Simpson?"
I saw that on Twitter.
Yes.
But the things I remember are Robert Shapiro and Johnny Cochran, and F. Lee Bailey. I remember the name. I know Dershowitz, but I think I know that from somewhere else.
From Reversal of Fortune, probably.
Yeah, something like that. And I remember, Lance Ito, I remember a glove.
Right.
Do I remember the entire thing playing out in racial terms? Not exactly, because I remember having a signed O.J. Simpson football when he was in the Bronco, going like, I know, say, free O.J. Like, Naked Gun, there's no way he could have done it.
He's famous.
Yeah.
Now, do we think that the show is trying to imply that Marcia Clark brought Darden on board because he's black, or are they trying to circumvent that she brought him on early enough that wasn't why she brought him on?
I think they're noticing how much they need him.
Right. I mean, it's the same way, like you guys said, it was a room full of, for even the defense, it was a room full of white guys trying to figure out the best way to approach this. And then it was kind of thrown in their laps, like, oh, there's this Mark Furman guy. Oh, and there's this situation with the LAPD, and we know how it is, but now we can maybe use it for our benefit instead of ignoring the problems that have always approached this black community in our city. So there was one part of it that I was actually I wrote down what they said, because also they compared it to the way the prosecution was seeing this dream team. We saw this, oh my God, this dream team. Again, I was 14 when it happened. So I was hearing about it, because I'm in school, and everyone has their sides based on, like you said, everyone had their footballers, like didn't like OJ or did like OJ. And then so each of them, this was like one of those obvious scenes where they gave like a label to each person of this dream team that was not very dreamy. F. Lee Bailey, loser, they said. Rob Kardashian, I didn't even know he was a lawyer. Robert Shapiro, settler. Alan Dershowitz, he's an appeal expert, which means he's expecting a conviction. These guys are losers. And Cochran was so cocky, like he wasn't even on board yet when they were assessing this team.
F. Lee Bailey, like, he peaked in the 70s. I mean, I was old enough to know, oh yeah, he was like Patty Hearst's lawyer or whatever. And so it seemed like, well, you're a name, but like there'd been a TV show called F. Lee Bailey's Lie Detector. Like, he was only famous. He wasn't necessarily like thought of as being this great lawyer.
Right.
But it was just
like
a name.
The Lakers, when they went with like the mailman and Gary Payton. Like it was.
When they picked him up.
They picked him up afterwards. Like all these people that they scooped up, a former dream
like
team.
maybe we can put it all together later and see what they can do.
Yeah.
So do you guys think the defense team aside, because they did, you see all these different elements that were presented last night, right? So making sure that the jury pool was in downtown Los Angeles rather than Santa Monica, making sure that they would capitalize on the current situation within the race relations at that point. Do you think that this was like the perfect scapegoat, the perfect like straw that broke the camel's back to like bring that all together, and everybody just wanted, not everybody, but it allowed for people to want to have O.J. Simpson get off because then it kind of redeemed all of the other racial injustices? Or was it this outstanding defense team, or the combination of both?
There's a lot of little pieces, I think. I mean, like the woman, that great witness who sees him driving around, in a frenzy, then having her struck as a witness because she went on a current affair, that might have made the difference if she had testified. It feels like there's all these little bits along the way that we're getting. It's interesting that Toobin himself, whose book this is based on, becomes a character now.
Yeah.
And his New Yorker article becomes such a key part of this because, in a way, he's almost portrayed as a bit of a stooge. Like, he basically becomes Shapiro's mouthpiece.
Right. So actually, I think it's what made, we talked about how this became the trial of the century versus other things, the Menendezes and all that. But what happened here was there were so many things in real life that happened. It seemed like a drama series, a soap opera.
Yes.
People that were close to it were like, that can't be what's happening right now. Like, it was a perfect storm. You said it wasn't each of those one things. It was so many things put together. And how does this happen in real life? This is real life? This sounds like a movie. So it's like it wrote itself, obviously. To the degree to which everything happened the way we thought it did. I mean, even the Broncos scene, which was the last episode, but I wanted to see what AC was saying to him in the Bronco, as if I was actually there. But I forget, this was written, This wasn't necessarily what was said.
This was written, and it does, like, there was a time when people would be like, OJ didn't kill those people.
People still, did you not read the comments to like our last video? A couple people were like, we're saying, oh, but what do you mean O.J. Simpson's innocent?
Right. I mean, and I can say that too because in a court of law, he was found, hate to spoil it.
He lost the civil case.
He lost the civil case, which has a lower burden of proof.
I know.
And it's damages for wrongful death. But like that's he didn't have to go to jail for that. He had to pay damages. I think that you have to identify all the different things along the way. or no, to get back to the idea that the decision made in going into producing this is that OJ killed those people. OJ was not framed by the police. OJ was actually glad-handed by the police, and it wasn't until afterwards that there was discovered to be one really racist person, self-declared racist person, and then that, looking back, those are decisions that they made that, according to a court of law, might not be true.
Yeah, very
But weird. But a
strategic.
lot of us are just like, yeah,
But they have
I can
to
see that.
and they have to build their defense, like you said. That's what, or you said that's what criminal attorneys do. That's what defense attorneys are going to do. They're going to sit around and they're going to think about how can we, present the most doubt for these juries so they don't convict him.
This show gets to do basically what is the job of a defense team.
Sure.
Which is to create a narrative that you take and go like, oh yeah, that's totally right.
And to bring this all back to the drama that it was, Shapiro is taking a page from Don Draper. If you don't like what they're saying about you, change the conversation.
Right.
And that's what this episode was about.
But also, I think another large part of the episode, and touching on it earlier, was seeing the fame. I mean, I thought that the scene with Kato Kalin was priceless, where he's running with his shirt off, and then girls are showing them like their boobs, and him mentioning, "Oh, I got to go and work on my reel because I want to capitalize on this opportunity." I don't doubt any of that.
Oh no, yeah,
I mean,
for sure,
Definitely.
Yeah,
that plays very true.
A really great use of the medium was that scene where Johnny Cochran gets prank called, because it gets a humbling moment with Johnny Cochran, which people don't see a lot. But also, I thought for a second that the defense team called Johnny pretending to be OJ. I was like, this is not Cuba Gooding Jr. Maybe they wanted it so bad that they pretended.
They got somebody else to do it. Yeah.
OJ.
They got Robert to be Uncle Juice. All right,
There's a small part, because I've noticed. I know we talk about the storyline a lot, but I don't know if we like to dive into the performances. I want Cuba to do better.
He's not going to take the stand. Spoiler.
Yeah.
I want him to do a little bit better. I feel like it's Cuba Gooding saying lines that they gave him to say and act like he's OJ. Like, I don't know. I mean, look, you even have and now I'm blanking on his name too. He just turned 62. Travolta. He's trying to be someone else. I don't know how Shapiro really speaks. I don't remember, but he's trying something else. It doesn't sound like it's Travolta being Travolta. Cuba sounds like it's Cuba.
His method, his acting method is just to scream a bunch.
The thing is, though, you could tell this story without even having OJ in it, because so much of this is about the idea of OJ and people's perceptions of OJ. You could do an entire version of this thing where you only shoot him from the back, like Jesus and Ben-Hur or something. All right, they're telling us to wrap it up, but there's tons to talk about. Let us know in the comments, and we'll be back next week with more American Crime Story. Thanks for watching.